大家好，香港時間2:35嚟到學英文冇口音呢個環節，收聽收睇緊嘅係 Action World 世界頻道同埋 Facebook 直播嘅。咁隔離咧有我嘅拍檔Angela 喺度嘅。你好 ，Angela。
你好。
好啦，咁咧就介紹下啦。Angela 係一位註冊嘅語言治療師。You are a registered speech pathologist in Ontario, right?
Exactly. I'm a registered speech therapist in Ontario and BC, actually.
So you have to pay 2 fees?
I do, and BC just raised their fees recently, which is not great, but it's important to make sure I can service more people.
Okay. Now, today we will be sharing about your recent experience in going to stand-up comedy workshop.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, actually. I talked about it last time, but improv is a great way to challenge yourself and improve your communication skills.
I guess you have an aspiration to be another Uncle Roger or Jimmy Yang, right?
Not exactly. But I think stand-up comedy and improv is a great way to improve your skills to be able to speak on the spot in a confident way.
Okay. Come on, Angela, 啱啱上個 weekend, it was just last week, was it?
Oh, I'm very bad with timing.
Yeah,
it sounds like, I feel like it's
quite
2 weeks
recent.
ago.
You went, right?
Yeah,
with a
recently.
friend.
Yeah.
So to comedy boot camp, which is called Second City, which also it's a premise that hosts all these comedy shows.
Yeah, they host comedy shows, they host classes for you to get better at improv and comedy in the future if you want to do it. And actually the class that I went to wasn't focused on comedy necessarily, it was focused on improv. So you get better at public speaking, you get better at speaking on the spot, making stuff up, and feeling okay with managing lots of different things at once.
Impromptu, 即係去爆肚 show. So it's like improvisation.
Exactly.
爆肚咁我哋學下咧，即係點樣去爆肚。But today we also will share with the audience about some special words, how we pronounce it. There is only one correct way to pronounce it, but sometimes people mispronounce certain words.
Wait, did you say there is only one right way to pronounce something?
Yeah, like for instance, that one word, SAYS, I think there's only, one generic way, more put it this way. Most people would pronounce it one way.
Most people would pronounce that word SAYS as says.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's only one correct way to pronounce things. And actually, there are lots of accepted varieties of English.
Yeah.
If you go to oxfordlearnersdictionary.com, you'll see the different accepted varieties of a word. Because in Canadian English, it might sound a little bit different from American English, and that might sound a little bit different from British English. And those are all accepted versions.
Yeah. And then there's an online website called Youglish, right? You mentioned it last time.
Yeah. I love Youglish because you get to hear pronunciations of a word spoken in context by real speakers. And you can usually tell if they're native speakers or non-native speakers. And if they use it and you hear it a lot, then it's probably an accepted variety. We actually just went onto the website right before this session and looked up the pronunciation of says. And the vast majority of people says. And there's only one speaker that we found out of 10 that says says instead.
Yeah.
So I'm not completely convinced that says is an accepted version of that word, but that's one way to tell.
咁我都打呢個字出嚟啦。So I'm just sharing with the audience too.
Yeah.
How to pronounce the word SAYS.
Yeah.
I would say it says.
Yeah.
And then, but I also saw like a Caucasian-looking person pronounce it as says. So I don't know where he comes from.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah. Maybe from Europe somewhere, right?
Maybe, because when I looked on Youglish, and I listened to a lot of UK, Australian, like various kinds of English, still the vast majority says.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure when people do say says instead of says. It could be that maybe they learned from listening first, or maybe they're adjusting how they speak for a certain audience.
Yeah. 咁我問下啲香港啲聽眾啦，I'm just asking the Hong Kong audience. How would you pronounce this word? SAYS. I think it will be he says, she says, not he says, she says. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of the people that I worked with, they would say it as says, and I would coach them to hear the pronunciation difference. A lot of people do say says because they try to look at the spelling of the word and base it off of the base form, says, say, and make it says.
Yeah. And then now this is not pronunciation. This is usage. Double confirm, right? There, I don't think people double confirm something. That's something we talked about last time, right? Double confirm.
I think it's essentially the same thing as let me
Reconfirm.
confirm. Yeah, confirm again, reconfirm.
Yeah.
It's the same meaning.
So
I don't hate that term that much, not as much as you.
Well, I don't like it because it sounds like people would know where you are from, Singapore or Hong Kong. So if
What's wrong with that?
Nothing wrong, but if you want to disguise yourself as someone,
Why would you want to do that?
You just don't want people to know where you come from.
But why?
Well, just be secretive, privacy.
Privacy? Okay.
I mean, I could look Asian, but people, like if you go to an international school, sometimes it's difficult to recognize where this person comes from, right?
Okay.
International school,
Sure.
English speaking, right? Yeah. Okay, so double confirm. That's the only thing that I want to mention. So tell us more about the experience at Second City. It's a 2-hour workshop.
Yeah.
What have you learned? 等啲即係聽眾可以明白多啲啦，因為 actually I want to go to after hearing so many good things about it. Yeah. Do you have to be very fluent in English? English is your mother tongue to join like a skit comedy, stand-up comedy workshop?
Not at all. So a little bit of context here. I decided to go to improv because I felt like I had a little bit of weakness in public speaking. Because all of my work is one-on-one online, I don't get a lot of opportunities speaking in front of a group of people and needing to navigate and manage lots of different pieces of information at once. One of the activities that they get you to do in Second City is try to think about 3 different pieces of information at once. What do I have to do if someone says my name? What do I have to do if someone looks at me? I have to remember to clap. I have to remember to say someone else's name. It's a lot of different things at once. And it was one of those activities that was challenging for me because I never have to do that. I only have to focus on one person at a time during my sessions. So for you, do you feel like you have any weaknesses?
I think I'm not funny enough. That's why. Because it's a lot of stuff that we do in my channel, dealing with social issues, investments. These are like serious stuff, like Tesla dropped 15% in one single day yesterday.
Right.
So this is very serious stuff, right?
Yeah.
So the program that we have now, this is less serious. This is more fun already.
Yeah.
I mean, with Snoopy, a lot of times inside the thumbnail, that's funny, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more lighthearted.
Yeah. And speaking of humor,
yeah,
one of our favorite speakers uses humor really well. And who is that?
Jim Carrey.
Oh, sure. Is he one of your favorite speakers?
No,
Who is
but
your
he is Canadian. Jim Carrey, 大家都可能聽過啦。Eddie Murphy is funny. A lot of foul languages involved. Yeah, sometimes, at times.
Is it your kind of humor?
Not really.
Who is your favorite speaker, Ed?
Speaker or comedian?
Speaker.
It goes back to the old days. Martin Luther King, quite forceful when he makes a speech, not when he is doing conversational stuff.
Why?
He talks different. Like when you're at the pulpit, when you preach, it's quite different from day-to-day speaking, right?
100%.
Yeah.
So are you, and the reason I'm asking is because it's very beneficial to improve your communication skills by thinking about who you want to sound more like, whose type of voice resonates with you and you really admire. You admire that person speaking for a reason. They're able to make an impact on you through the sound of their voice. So you want to take into account their regular speaking as well as how they do presentations. Is there someone you admire for their speaking skills in both regular conversation and speeches?
Well, in the US, I think former President Barack Obama, he speaks quite well.
Yeah.
Making a speech in Congress and also conversational when he is conversing with a journalist.
I totally agree.
Quite natural.
And do you know what it is about his voice that makes it so compelling? It's hard to pinpoint, right?
Well, he spent a lot of time in Hawaii. That's where he went for high school, and then
Sure.
Working-wise in Chicago area before he became the president.
Yep.
So it's I guess his English is more Midwest accent. Chicago is Midwest.
So are you saying then you like him because of his accent?
It's easy to understand. Like if I still have a hard time, for instance, not understanding, but like the way Donald Trump talk. It's kind of like this. It's not my type of like favorite speaker.
So
nothing against Trump, but it's just the way he talks.
I actually want to bring something up. Can I bring
Sure.
up the slide now?
Sure.
So for most people,
Yeah.
it's very hard to pinpoint exactly what it is about someone speaking that you like. For some reason, it feels like, we were just talking about accent. But like my accent is pretty clear to you too.
Yours is definitely Canadian accent.
Yeah, and you understand everything. So it's not just about the clarity of the accent. It's about how they're coming across in their verbal delivery.
Yeah.
So Barack Obama, he uses humor in a lot of his speeches.
That I don't know. But
you don't know? He does. Every time he gives a speech, people laugh.
Okay.
He incorporates humor.
Yeah.
That's how he bonds with people. But the thing about Barack Obama is that he has great pacing. If you look at this diagram that I developed to work with my clients, pacing, he's really good at making deliberate pauses. So
which box are you looking at?
Medium energy. I don't know if this is
on the red?
Yellow.
The
medium
yellow?
Energy.
Okay. The one in the middle. 中間嗰個
Exactly.
box.
Medium energy. He has a measured pace with intentional pauses. You never hear him speaking too fast.
Right.
And you never hear him speaking too slow that you fall asleep.
Yeah.
It makes him sound deliberate and confident. He chooses his words carefully. And actually, Martin Luther King does something very similar.
I think he has a script. Martin Luther King, like for instance, his famous speech, "I Have a Dream." Definitely, he writes it down first, so it's not like impromptu.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, Obama does the same thing too, of course.
Yeah.
All the good speeches, they're very well rehearsed. They likely have a script. For something that is that polished, then they need to have a script. But even if you hear him in regular interviews, Barack Obama and Martin Luther King, both, they are very deliberate in their pausing and pacing. They choose their words carefully.
And how do you call those things? Transponder or no? Where you read from on the side, right? Like not transponder. Transponder is the
just on-screen text.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't do that.
Well, if you can read from, even in church these days, you have.
If you're a news anchor or like you're a TV show host, then you'll have that.
Yeah. Now we don't have a script in front of us, but I would say we do it quite natural. I mean, we didn't prepare for the talk, right?
Yeah.
We just talk about it for 5-10 minutes before we go on air.
Yeah. And that's what I specialize in, the everyday, casual, spontaneous conversations. How can you make your regular conversations more natural and easy to understand? I'm not talking about the super polished speeches. If you want to work on super polished speeches, yes, you can rehearse over and over again until you yourself sound like Obama. But it's
you use more polished words too if you do that.
Yeah, because you put lots of careful thought into your words.
Yeah.
So for you, Ed, I want you to, if you can see this smaller screen.
too small.
Well, let's say on a higher level.
Okay.
Do you think the way you come across is high energy, medium energy, or low energy?
Sometimes between medium to high energy is good. You don't want an overkill.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Who do you think does an overkill to high energy?
Too high energy all the time is like a Tony Robbins. That I cannot stand.
Oh yeah.
Tony Robbins is a motivational speaker. 係啦，即係有一部分人會知我講咩。Yeah. That would be too high because you're psyched up all the time.
Oh yeah. Can you type in his name so people can look him up?
Yeah.
It's you're totally right. Some motivational speakers are so high energy all the time, and they do it on purpose, right? If they're hosting a workshop, if they're hosting a course or being on stage, you need to hype up the audience. It's important to do so. If you have lower energy or medium energy, it just sounds like a regular conversation and people don't want to pay attention. So you need to hype it up and make people really excited to listen to you.
Yeah, create excitement.
Exactly. And so it's for a purpose. It's important too. So I would say that in most cases, everyone should aim to be medium energy most of the time.
Yeah.
Because that should be what you want to achieve most of the time. Versus if you want to sound more uncertain, like down here, you want to sound more uncertain, you want to be a little bit more gentle. Maybe you're giving someone like comforting words because something bad happened. You want to be more low energy versus high energy for the stage.
Yeah. So sometimes when you make a speech, accent, of course, is important, but how you present it, how you use your voice, how you project your voice is also important. Yeah. So I'm kind of a medium high right now. So I could be very low energy, like a bland guy.
Yeah.
A bland guy at low energy.
Yeah. I would say that sometimes with the Martin Luther King clip that I saw with him just answering an interview question, at times he sounded even lower energy than medium energy because he was going so slow. He wanted to be really cautious with what he said. So in that sense, it wasn't as deliberate and confident, but he wanted to be really cautious with his words. There's a bit of a shift in energy there.
Okay. Now, before we end today, because we will be going outside, actually it's 15 degrees outside.
It's pretty warm today.
Yeah. We're doing a few programs outside very soon. So before we wrap up, I would like to discuss the word about and about, Canadian way.
Yeah.
I think I shared with you. Sometimes they pronounce the word A-B-O-U-T as about.
Yeah, if you want to go extreme, yes.
Yeah, about. Kind of weird. Canadian way of pronouncing.
Wow, Canadian English is weird? What are you saying?
A boot. Yeah, you're wearing a boot.
It's interesting. So this phenomenon called Canadian raising is something that happens for a few different kinds of vowels, and ow is one of them. I is also another one. So if you say height, it might go to height instead of height. Can you hear the difference?
Say it again, please.
Height.
Height as in your height?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, go height. Yeah.
And can you hear the difference in my two different pronunciations?
The other one?
Height. I'm exaggerating here, but can you hear the difference?
Yeah, it's the intonation is different.
The vowel is different.
The vowel.
Canadian raising is a phenomenon that affects the vowels.
Yeah, but it's the same word, right?
It is the same word.
Yeah.
And for Canadian, the Canadian accent, it's always the same word. It just sounds a little bit different.
Height and Canadian would pronounce it with the how do you call it?
Canadian raising affects the height of the tongue when you're making these vowels. So if you look at my mouth when I say height versus height, one starts more open, lower, your tongue is lower. And when you say height, the tongue starts off higher.
That's more American.
Canadian raising.
Raising it's Canadian.
It's Canadian, and then the more open one is more American. So when you say a word like about, there's more opening versus Canadians might say about, where it's
less open.
Less open.
Oh, really?
Which means the tongue is higher, and that's why it's called raising.
Okay. So a boot, and about.
A boot is a very, very extreme version of Canadian raising. You won't actually hear that very frequently with Canadians.
Yeah.
You'll hear about versus about.
So think about Canadian raising as the mouth doesn't open as a wide.
Exactly. Raising of the tongue. That's
raising of the tongue.
Yeah, raising of the tongue when the vowel starts.
Like
That's very technical, but
go
that's what
away.
it is.
各位美國, because we got a few American viewers here. So Canadian raising, you don't have to learn it. The Americans open wide.
They do, but actually it depends because America, in the States, there's actually a lot of different accents too.
Yeah.
Like if you go to Texas versus if you go to New York, you're going to hear different accents. And if you go to Michigan, which is very near the border, you're going to hear an accent that is more close to the Canadian accent versus if you go further down south.
More Midwest accent.
Yeah, it's different depending on where you are.
Yeah. Definitely I can hear a New Yorker
when
they speak English. It's easy.
Yeah, that's easy.
California, a little bit different.
California is a lot more similar to Canadian English, I would say.
And Texas, totally different. Southern accent, very different.
Yeah.
Would you say Australian accent doesn't open the mouth as wide because American English, they just more jaw muscles? That's the video I sent you.
I wouldn't say so, to be honest. I know you sent me that video where there is that actress trying to emulate the difference between American versus Australian English. But what I feel like she's doing is she's embodying different kinds of characters. There are some Americans who talk like this all the time, right? Like they move their mouth a lot.
Yeah.
But then there are some Americans who just kind of talk like this, and they just kind of mumble.
Yeah.
But it just still sounds American. Oh, 100%.
That talks like this is more like Eddie Murphy type of a talk.
There's a lot of Americans with different kinds of speaking skills. And there are Australians who speak with their mouth more wide open and some who don't.
Okay, so to conclude, which is the safest way for people to understand? If you go for an interview, whatever, do a podcast, I guess the yellow, the median, right?
Medium energy.
Medium
to high, actually.
Medium to high.
People love a little bit of energy when you're interviewing.
Okay.
So I highly recommend you want to sound confident. You also want to sound calm. You don't want to sound nervous, right? High energy isn't necessarily good. If you sound a little bit excited and a little bit nervous when you're doing interviews, that doesn't give a good impression either.
Right.
So you have to find the right balance.
Yeah. Okay. I guess this will conclude today's episode.
Great episode.
Yeah. Please contact us if you have any further questions. And before we leave, Angela, can you tell us a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Actually, this diagram that I created is the perfect representation of what I do. I help you change your voice or increase the range of your voice so you can communicate in the ways that you intend. There are some people that I work with who can only do medium energy voices, and I help them increase their range so they can do high energy voices if they want. And some people that I work with, they are only capable of high energy voices. Maybe they sound tense and angry all the time, and I help increase their range so they can achieve all the different kinds of voices for different scenarios.
And your website, your clinic, what is it?
My clinic is called Speak Fluent, and because I'm a registered speech therapist, all of my services and with the rest of my team are covered under your workplace benefits. So if you have insurance for paramedical health professionals like massage therapy or dental, check if speech therapy is covered because you might get free professional training.
.ca, right?
.ca, based in Canada.
Yeah. So this is it. Speakfluent.ca. Check out the website.
And reflect on your communication skills. As I was asking you, what kind of speaker do you like? Do you admire? What kind of weaknesses do you think you have? What do you think you want to work on?
Yeah. Well, actually, I also like Rocky Balboa personification. So that's a lot of mumbling. You know, the Sylvester Stallone. I think he...
Sylvester?
Sylvester Stallone,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
but a lot of mumbling when he speaks. as well.
Yeah, definitely different kinds of voices.
Yeah. Okay, last comment before we leave.
Can you translate for me?
Low energy 又慢傾的講話，令我想起叉燒及雲尼紅，不自信中強裝有料。叉燒 it's an inside joke about some Hong Kong politicians. They have very low energy.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, when they speak. Maybe the job is not interesting.
Also possible.
Yeah.